this? You can see that? I'll stand back, make sure. Okay, great. This case is about power and influence. The people who have it and the people who don't have it. Ryan Duke has neither. He didn't have power and he didn't have influence. Bo Dukes has both. The state has both. And you're going to see that throughout the evidence in this case. I want to walk you through the timeline that the state had already walked through. Can we approach briefly? Okay, great. Thank you, Judge. I want to walk through the timeline. I know that the state talked about Ms. Grinstead's last day. I want to walk through that with us because I think it's important. They showed you pictures of her clothes. They showed you pictures of the clothes that she was wearing in the last photograph that they contend was taken. So that evidence was from Saturday night. So Saturday, October 22nd. And this is important. The timeline is very important in this case. So Saturday, October 22nd, she was seen in those clothes. The state then showed you that those clothes were on her floor. Okay? Why are her clothes important? So we've got, let's start with Saturday. Okay? So Saturday night, this is October 22nd, 2005. The state showed you that Ms. Grinstead went home that night. Her clothes were on the floor. You're going to hear from a witness that said her favorite pair of yoga pants and her brand new sneakers were not found in that house. That evidence is going to tell you that she changed clothes and that she put on sneakers. You're going to hear evidence about a door bolt. One of the photos that was taken at the scene is of her door. Let me see if I can put this up on the Elmo so you all can see. I was told it would take a few minutes. Your screen's returned. Thank you. Technology. I brought extra pictures just in case. There we go. All right, so why is this important? Because the evidence that the state is going to present to you that she was home. They want you to believe that she was home and that Ryan Duke broke into her home and harmed her. If you look at the top lock, it's one of those hotel-style locks. So when you go to a hotel and close the door, you can lock it. You can lock it from the inside so that nobody can get in, so that nobody can break in, so that you can't break in with a credit card. You can't pick that lock. This is the type of lock that if you're home and you have it on your door, the evidence is going to show you would lock it. And that Ms. Grinstead would lock this door and would use that to lock the door. The evidence is going to show that that is her habit, that she would lock that top lock. And so the version of events that the state has presented and will continue to present conflicts with this. Her car. Let's talk about where her car was seen. And this is important. The car and the glove are both going to be important this time. Okay? So we've got, let's move on to Sunday. All right, so Sunday, October 23rd. This is the date that the state has alleged in the indictment Ms. Grinstead was killed. Okay? That night, that next morning, there were neighbors across the street who are going to come in here and tell you that her car was not at her house, okay? So, car not there. And this is in the morning. Daylight, in the morning hours. All right? So far what we've got is we've got Saturday night evidence that you'll hear that she changed clothes, that she put on her sneakers. You'll hear evidence that Sunday, her car was not there. Later on Sunday, you'll hear from those same witnesses that they saw her car appear around dusk. So car is gone all day. And then let's see. What does that tell you? Her car was not home on Sunday. It was not there. So where was it? The evidence is not going to show you that anybody knows what happened to her car that day, where her car was. The really important fact, though, that you're going to hear, is that night, so this night, it's a Sunday night, this is around midnight, so it actually may be Monday morning, you're going to hear from Heath Dykes. He's going to tell you that glove that the state has just paraded around in multiple pictures and that you're going to hear about this entire week, that glove wasn't there. Why is that important? Well, Heath Dykes, he is a police officer. He is a trained detective. When he went to her house that night, all right, so just to put it back in context, the state is arguing to you that Ryan harmed her Sunday morning. Sunday night, there's no glove. The glove is not there. You're going to hear that from Heath Dykes. And he's going to tell you that he's a detective and he was worried about what happened to her. He was dating her. He loved her. What happened to her? He looked around her house. He looked in the windows. He went and played with her dog. He looked all around. He knocked on the door. He left a card. He would have noticed that glove. That glove, the state showed you pictures right there in the front yard. He would have noticed that glove. Trained detective. It's not there. It does not conform with what the state has just presented to you happened in this case. Also, you'll hear from another gentleman, a kid who Miss Grinstead was watching his dog. That witness will tell you that on this same day, Sunday afternoon, he went over around 6 or 7 o'clock that night to pick up the dog bowl. So Miss Grinstead was watching his dog, and he had picked the dog up earlier but forgot the dog bowl. So he talked to her, and she said, dog bowl is in the back, go pick it up. He calls her, she doesn't answer, so he drives over there. This is around 6 or 7 o'clock at night, on Sunday night. Still light out. He goes up, knocks on her door, no glove. Broad daylight, no glove. That glove was not there Sunday night. That glove did not appear until a full day later, on Monday, when the police and Mr. Portier, neighbors, everybody were all over her home that Monday morning. So there's no glove. So on Sunday, her car's not there, the glove's not there. What's the explanation for that? She left her home. She put on her shoes, she put on her sneakers, and she left her home. Sunday night, the evidence is going to show that she left, or Saturday night, I'm sorry, that she left. You're going to hear about her dog. She had a dog, a German Shepherd named Dolly Madison. You're going to hear that she would leave that dog out when she went out. The dog was out. Heath Dykes will testify that when he came Sunday night, the dog was out. The Portiers will testify that the dog barked all night. She left. She was not home when the state says this happened. The evidence is going to show that she was not in her home. And had she been home, this lock would have prevented what the state will submit Ryan did. Break into her home. Why is that important? Well, as the judge has told you, the state has the burden of proof. So they have to explain to you what happened here. And nobody knows what happened. Nobody knows what happened this day. They are going to present, we anticipate, a theory based on a statement that Ryan made to a GBI agent. The evidence is going to show that Ryan admitted that he had taken a narcotic, pain medicine, prior to that statement. The evidence is going to show that he was under the effects of this pain medicine. You'll see it. The state showed you a photo. You'll see it. This glove that didn't appear until Monday morning. The state cannot get Bo Duke's DNA off of that glove. You will hear evidence that they tried. You will hear evidence that they talked with the GBI and tried to make deviations, and you'll hear all about it, but tried very hard to change standards to get Bo Duke's DNA off of that glove. At best, it was inconclusive. What does inconclusive mean? You'll hear it means a weak match. It means they cannot get his DNA off of that glove. You'll also hear that that glove had at least 3 DNA profiles on it. Not 2, at least 3. I want to talk a little bit about the phone records. The state has submitted to you that the phone records are what they call guilty knowledge, that nobody knows about these phone records and they've been kept secret all these years, and so it's sort of like this smoking gun. Well, 2 things I want to point out with that. First of all, Tara's phone records do not show a call from a payphone. Her actual certified phone records do not show that she received a call on October 23rd from a payphone. You'll hear from a detective that he looked at her phone on her caller ID and that he compared the caller ID time to his watch, and so he thinks it's accurate. But that call does not show up on her phone records. Now, the state is going to put in, we believe, evidence that someone used that payphone at around that time to call information, okay? But it doesn't show up on her phone records. But I submit to you, what is the evidence that that phone call proves that Ryan harmed Tara Grinstead? It doesn't. It's not even accurate. This glove you've heard about, this phone call you've heard about, the state in their opening said these are things that Ryan confessed to. Well, I'm going to read you some of what the evidence is going to show was said to Ryan when he confessed to these things. Listen very carefully during the interview of Ryan, during the GBI interview. Listen very carefully to who introduces these smoking guns first. Because the state has submitted that they are evidence of guilty knowledge, okay? Guilty knowledge would be, oh, well, only the person who did it knows about this. The gloves. Agent Shaldell, tell me about the gloves. I know there were some gloves at your house. Is that going to have your DNA on it? Ryan, it should. They were mine. Agent Shaldell keeps asking about the gloves. So you used the gloves when you moved the body? Ryan, I don't even think I used them. Agent Shaldell, what did you do to clean up? You said you wore the gloves, right? No, sir. Agent Shaldell, when you went to clean up, you wore gloves. Ryan, no, sir. I never put gloves on. Agent Shaldell introduces the gloves. Ryan doesn't. Agent Sheldell keeps asking him, a person who has taken medicine and is there and is terrified. He's terrified for his family. The evidence will show that he is scared to death of Bo Dukes because he knows what Bo Dukes has done and he knows what Bo Dukes is capable of. And he is there telling what he thinks he has to tell to protect his family. So when Agent Sheldell introduces the glove, at first he says no, because he didn't. But after repeated questioning, he gives in. The phone call, this guilty knowledge phone call that's been kept secret all these years. Who introduced it? Agent Sheldell. Agent Sheldell, did you ever make any phone calls or anything like that to the house? Ryan, no, sir. Agent Sheldell, well, we know there were some phone calls that got made to her house. Ryan, oh yeah, that's when I called her. I hadn't gotten her at that point. I was hoping she was okay. Well, how did you call? What did you do? Then Agent Sheldell tells Ryan, I know you're telling the truth. At that point, he's introduced the phone call, and Ryan, at first, disputed it, and then when he says, yeah, you're right, then Agent Sheldell says you're telling the truth. You're going to hear that there was a lot of evidence taken in this case. There were over, and I had to write this down, there were over 117 swabs taken from Miss Grinstead's car. And why is her car important? Well, you're going to hear evidence that it wasn't there on this day. You're also going to hear evidence that it returned to her home and it was dirty. The tires were filthy. There was mud all over them. And that Miss Grinstead did not keep her car that way. So her car was always clean. So that was odd. Also, that the seat in her car was pushed all the way back. She was a tiny person. So the seat was pushed back for someone who was much bigger than Miss Grinstead. Evidence that her car was not there on Sunday and that someone drove her car. So because of that, the police thought that was important. And they swabbed her car. They took fingerprints and they took DNA swabs. Only 7 of those were ever actually tested. No idea why. You're going to hear evidence that that's up to the GBI. That's up to the state. The defense can't test that type of evidence. What are you not going to hear? What else are you not going to hear? You're not going to hear any evidence that Ryan had his blood, semen, saliva, skin cells, prints, anything in that house. Not one piece of evidence that Ryan was in that house. Not one piece of evidence that Ryan was in that car. They took fingerprints off the door, off this door that they're going to ask you to believe he broke into with a credit card. They took fingerprints. Not one single one matched Ryan. The state's theory, we believe, is based on a statement that was taken from Ryan and that was not the truth. Does the state know the truth? We'll have to see at the end of this case if the state has presented any evidence that they actually know what happened in this case. But what we do know is that Ryan did not harm Miss Grinstead. And at the end of this trial, you will agree with us that Ryan did not harm Miss Grinstead, that he was not in her home, and that he did not assault her, he did not burglarize her. He's charged with burglarizing, he's charged with assault, that he did not do any of those things. Like I said at the beginning, this case, it's about power and it's about influence. What's great about jury service is that at this point, you all hold the power. You have the influence. And at the end of this case, we're going to come back up here and we're going to ask you to render a verdict. We're going to ask you to render a verdict that speaks the truth and that speaks justice for everybody involved in this case. And that verdict is going to be not guilty because Ryan Duke did not commit the crimes that he is charged with committing in Irwin County. He did not murder Miss Grinstead. He did not assault Miss Grinstead. He did not burglarize Miss Grinstead. He did not conceal her death in Irwin County. He did none of the things that he's indicted for. And you all will agree with us at the end of this trial. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody need a break, ladies and gentlemen? We'll be going by the 9. Anybody need a break?